Hello, everybody. How are you? If you can hear me, I want you to please type I can hear you in the comment section. I just want to be sure that I am not speaking to myself. So if you can hear me out there, please type I can hear you in the comment section. I would really appreciate that. Hello, I see you. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching. Um, Okay, I see comments. Okay, you can hear me. Thank you so much. At least now I know I'm not talking to myself. But however, I am used to talking to myself. So let's go straight into today's episode. So I want to welcome everybody. Welcome to yet another beautiful episode of the Morale Booster with Dr. John Ughulu. Now, the Morale Booster is a platform for entrepreneurs, career professionals, leaders, and the general public to give back to the society through coaching and mentoring. I always like to emphasize on the fact that experience is the best teacher. And this program is currently being sponsored by Mainseed Consulting Group LLC. And for bookings, adverts, or sponsorship inquiries, please contact us. You would find our contact details currently being displayed on the screen. So if someone else out there can hear me, please type I can hear you. We just want to be sure that everybody has the opportunity of listening to our guest and myself. All right. So before I introduce our guest for today, I want you all to please bring out your phones. I am doing the same thing. Bring out your phones, like and share this broadcast. Like and share this broadcast because you might just be saving the life of that one person. For those of you who are watching us via Facebook, those of you who are listening via podcast, and those of you who are listening or watching via YouTube, please like and share this broadcast because there is definitely somebody on your contact list who has been waiting for a lifetime to hear the words of wisdom that will be coming out from my guest today. Like and share the broadcast. We're not telling you to pay us a dime. We just want you to join our mission. Join us in our mission of trying to coach and mentor somebody and inspire somebody out there. Thank you. I know you are all doing that right now. So, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest today. He's a man of experience. And I know a lot of you are waiting. You can't wait to see. He's a man of experience. And today I have a man who lives in Georgia, and his name is Dr. James O. Rodgers. Dr. Rodgers has practiced diversity management as an enterprise performance tool for over 35 years. He is recognized by his colleagues as one of the leading strategists and the number one thought leader in the field of diversity management. He is known as a diversity coach. Yes, he's a diversity coach. Dr. Rodgers has been a behind the scene advisor to leaders in over 250 major enterprises, including the Coca-Cola Company, Georgia Power, BellSouth, now AT&T, and the ThyssenKrupp Elevator, and not for profits, including YMCA of Metro Atlanta and the High Museum of Arts. Internationally, he has been a trusted advisor for global brands such as J&J, IBM, BP Amoco, and Chevron Texaco. Dr. Rodgers is known internationally as a leader in the field. His published writings are read across the globe in places like the United Kingdom, Australia, India, the Philippines, and South America. He is the author of Managing Differently, getting 100% from 100% of your people 100% of the time. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I want you all to please join me as I welcome to the stage this man of eloquence, this man of great experience, no other person but the great Dr. James Rogers. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you for having me, John.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Now, sir, I know you have, you know, in your lifetime acquired a lot of experience, and you have not just kept those experience to yourself. You have written books. You have your intellectual property in books. So, can you please tell us, share with us, how has that journey been for you, documenting your life experience in those books?
Well, let me just give you a little context of my life experience. I was raised in Louisville, Kentucky, went to high school there. I'm a graduate of Howard University's engineering school. I also have an MBA from University of Alabama. And as you and I talked, John, I have my PhD in management. Uh, I was also a fast track corporate executive. When I first came out of college, I joined the telecom industry as a fast track corporate executive. And in fact, according to the program I was in, I actually did make it into top management within the prescribed time. But I soon discovered that I went through all of the different departments and I was, kind of well regarded in the business. But I discovered probably at about the 15-year mark that that was not really what I was called to do. And so I had the epiphany, if you will, of waking up in the middle of the night with a voice saying, "This is not what I want you to do." And so uh, I immediately set out to recondition my thinking. I was really kind of Joe corporate. I was really steeped in the corporate environment. So I had to recondition my thinking. And 2 years later, I walked away from a corporate environment and started my own entrepreneurial venture. And I've been doing that for the last 35 plus years. So one of the things that I discovered about myself, which goes to your question, is all I've ever really wanted to do is to help others achieve beyond their own thinking and their own expectations. I have a drive and a passion for helping other people to see how good they are and then to execute against the gifts that they have. As an executive coach, one of the first things that I do in the first session with any of my executive clients is I ask them, who do you think you are? What are your gifts? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? If you were to describe you to you, what would you say? And that is a really important question because it helps people to understand that they have some uniqueness, they have gifts and talents to offer to the world. And my job as a coach is not to tell them what to do. That's a mentor's job. My job as a coach is to remind them of what they're already good at and remind them that they ought to be using those skills and those talents to be the best they could possibly be in whatever field they chose uh, to uh, to endeavor. So that's really kind of what I'm about in a nutshell. I'm about helping other people be their best.
Right, 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 right. And you talked about, you talked about what majority of the people in corporate America or majority of the people in the workforce are currently struggling with. You talked about how it got to that point where you knew that was not your calling. At that point, you knew your job was basically what you get paid to do, and you also knew that your calling was what you were born to do. And
Yes.
there's so many people who might be listening right now who are currently struggling with that. You know, they wake up frustrated every day, knowing that they're going to a job. that they do not love. So what's your advice for those people? How can they respond to the question you asked, which is, what do you think you are? I mean, who do you think you are? How can they figure that out?
Yeah. So what happens to us, and it happened to me too, is you get out of school and the world pulls you along to where they want you to go. Most of us never
Exactly.
stop long enough to back up and say, okay, so why am I here? What am I naturally good at? What do I offer to the world that can actually bless other people without it being a burden to me? And so most of us go to a job and we do what's required of us, but we never figure out who we are. And here's the important thing about it: it's a tough decision because you have responsibilities, you got family, you got bills, and you got all of that. And it's hard for you to just say, well, I'm going to chuck all of that and go and do what I'm called to do. But
Right.
here's something, John, that I know that you know: the top 5% of any profession always make a lot of money. The top 5%, if you're the best at what you do,
Yes.
you're going to do okay.
Yes.
And once you figured that out, you said, well, maybe I ought to just stop and focus on being the best that I can be at whatever it is I do. So even though I'm technically trained as an engineer, I discovered I was naturally good at facilitating difficult conversations, inviting people to think deeply. There's one theme that goes through all of my spiritual teaching, through my coaching, through my consulting, and it is the word think, inviting people to just think deeply rather than just following the path and doing on a day-to-day basis what everybody thinks they ought to be doing. So I think it's a it's a daunting thing for people to say, I'm going to chuck this good job and go and do what I'm called to do. I would say to you, focus on, why even while you're working, focus on developing clarity around who you are, why you are here, and then just start doing it. And you'll discover the world needs you to do what you were called to do, and they're willing to pay you for it.
Wow. Wow. That's some powerful words of encouragement there. You talked about, for whoever is listening right now, whether you're listening via podcast or Facebook or YouTube, what he just said, what I learned from him now is that you need to focus on developing clarity on who you are while you are on that job, right? And I've heard uh, someone say this in the past, that your job is very important because it is that job that would help you refine your gift. Because if you heard what Dr. Rogers talked about earlier, you are uniquely built for something, right? The job would help you. It is meant to help you refine that gift, where you learn organizational skills, you learn all those basic skills that you need to focus on your calling. Am I correct, Dr. Rogers?
You're absolutely right. I've always said that each person that lands on the planet is called and and been blessed to do something special in the world.
Right.
We equipped to do it. We are fixed to do it. And once we figure out what that it is, like I tell people now, I haven't really worked a day in the last 35 years because I really have learned to just get up and be myself, just be me, and realize that there's value in that, and that what I have to do is just find the right playing field where people really need who I am and what I do. And like I said, the world will pay you handsomely for being at your best. So that's really an important principle for people to get, is that you are okay where you are. The problem with most of us is we never figure out who we are. And so
Right.
we lumber through the world doing what is expected of us rather than doing what we are called and equipped to do. And
Wow.
that's an unfortunate thing.
It is quite unfortunate. And thank you for, you know, touching this topic, because there's so many people struggling right now. All right. So if you are listening via podcast, like and share this message, the broadcast via Facebook, like and share it. If you're also listening via YouTube, like and share it, because there is somebody out there on your contact list who needs to hear this message. Please do that. We're not asking you to give us money, we're just asking you to share this message. All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, um, they call you the diversity coach. It means you are, a pro in that subject matter. Like we were talking previously before we went live. I know um, diversity has to do with diversity and inclusion is one of the precepts of leadership. As a leader, you should be able to um, have skills in that area, understand that particular topic. So, can you please tell us what made you choose that particular subject? Why do they refer to you? Why do they refer to you as that the diversity coach?
So here's the story. Here's the backstory. And I'm so glad that you position diversity and inclusion around leadership and management. These are skills.
Yes.
Leadership, the diversity and inclusion is a discipline. It is a relationship discipline. And as you and I talked about, John, as a leader, relationships are key to your effectiveness. But
Right.
here's the thing that gets in the way. We see people packaged differently from us. We get indications that they're not part of our tribe, and all of a sudden that puts up a barrier to relationships.
Yes.
It puts up a barrier to relationships. We don't even explore how can this person be a blessing in my life and how can I be a blessing in their life, because we've gotten hooked on the wrong message about if they're not one of us, then I can't engage them. And
Right.
that is so pervasive. That's really what I'm working against. And my new book is really going to address that head on and tell people they've been working on the wrong thing and that we need to go back to the official definition of diversity and inclusion, which diversity is a relationship discipline. It is the collective mix of differences and similarities, because my message is rather than being distracted and derailed by the differences, spend 10 minutes with the person and find out what you have in common with them. Once you discover what you have in common with them, those differences don't matter so much. And so
Right.
now you've got a basis for a solid, productive, comfortable relationship with that person, and you can do some awesome things together. The alternative, of course, is you are put off by their differences and you no longer have that opportunity that was put right in front of you to be at your best, because now you're connected with the people who can help you be at your best.
Right.
That makes
Right.
sense to you?
Yes. That's a powerful one. It's a collective mix of differences. Like I love that.
Collective mix of differences and similarities.
And similarities.
And similarities. That's the piece that some people have dropped in the last 30 years, which has gotten us so confused about this work. We forget the and similarities, and we
Right.
focus all our time on differences,
The
and
differences.
we focus on one dimension of diversity after another. First it was race, and then it was gender, then it was gay and lesbian, then it was disabilities, and now there's 1,000 different things that we can point to and say that makes us different. But there's a handful of things that makes us all we all have in common as human beings. And what we need to do is find out what those things are, because that serves you. That will help you to be at your best. Just focusing on differences is nothing but it just builds up a more and more of a barrier. So we have to be smart about how we approach this topic. And unfortunately, people love their grievances. So we focus all of our time on people like me are not getting the right break, rather than focusing on how can I move past that barrier, to find out what my similarities are with any other human being, and then be have a productive and comfortable relationship with that person.
Wow. 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 That's powerful. Powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know you have laid emphasis on something that someone out there has actually been missing. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Okay, now let's go to your book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about the new book, and then I'll tell you about the two that preceded it. Like I said, I have one simple theme, and that is about human beings learning to be more effective with each other. My first book was called Managing Differently. I think you've already mentioned it before. But in that book, my attempt was to change the conversation about diversity and inclusion to bring it back to that original definition that we just talked about. Right after that, I wrote a second book called Finding Truth Without Losing Faith. As I mentioned to you, I'm also a spiritual teacher. And one of the things, one of those barriers that I discovered that we have, that we are artificial barriers, is around our spiritual traditions or our religious traditions. And so I wrote Epiphany, Finding Truth Without Losing Faith, to point out to people that even in our spiritual traditions, we have more in common than we have differences. Our traditions get in the way of us recognizing how common truth is. We all share the same basic principles. Here's something that most people don't know, John. If you're Christian, you believe that do unto others as you do, as you would have them do unto you. They think that's a
Right.
Christian principle. That principle was first articulated by Confucius in China. It was re-articulated by the Vedas in India. It was re-articulated by Rabbi Hillel, who's a contemporary of Jesus of Nazareth, who said the same thing. Every religious tradition that we know of has that as the basic foundation. So once we know that, it is less likely that we can demean or diminish someone because they didn't grow up in your family, did not come up with the same religious traditions that you did. So that was the second attempt. This new book, which is called Diversity Training That Generates Real Change, is intended to block against this new tendency in the marketplace of doing quick and dirty, low cost, something they call diversity training, which has very little to do with what I just talked about, the relationship discipline. It
Okay.
has to do with teaching people about race theory and gender theory and queer theory and all of those academic terms,
Right.
which most people have limited interest in. They want to know about me, you know. So
Yes.
tell, tell me about all those other people. I'll listen politely, but I really want to know about me. How can I
Exactly.
get better? And that's what D&I is intended to do, is to help people to figure out you have biases, you have prejudice, you have a head full of stereotypes, and you have a reaction to differences. And to overcome those reactions to differences, we encourage people to do what we call seek similarities. That's the antidote to reacting to differences, is to seek similarities. And that's what the new book is all about, is giving people a foundation so that they can move out of the morass that we're in,
Yes.
just talking about dimensions of difference as opposed to talking about what we have in common.
Right, 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 right. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I want to, I enjoy talking about natural principles, laws, universal laws, because you talked about Confucius and you talked about some other people. I know that basically that particular law is kind of I think it's we can say that's the law of cause and effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because to every action there is an equal amount of reaction.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's why it says, "Do unto others as you wish to be done unto you." So I enjoy talking about natural principles because these things are already there for us.
Right.
They're already there for us to use, and they all have all the punishments embedded in them. So
Mhm.
those people who understand the natural principles understand that they have to adhere strictly to them. Because if you go against any natural principle, there is already a punishment. God does not need to come down to punish anybody.
Right.
God gave us those principles. God put punishments in there in case you go against them. So thank you so much for
Mhm.
sharing that with us. And where can people find these books to buy?
The books are all available on Amazon. Barnes and Noble, and various other book selling sites.
Amazon.
Uh,
Okay.
and
Okay.
just so you'll know the exact name, the
Yes.
second book is called Epiphany.
Okay.
Epiphany:
Epiphany. Okay.
Finding Truth Without Losing Faith.
Okay. Yes.
That book has been the basis of a great spiritual teaching that I do with a group south of Atlanta,
Right.
an interfaith group. So
Okay.
these are people from every faith tradition, and we all follow those same principles, and we
Right.
have good conversations. And there is no pointing fingers. You're wrong, and I'm right. There's
Exactly.
only we are human. What do we need to know? What is real truth for us? And
Right.
so, and my first book, of course, Managing Differently, which I mentioned to you, Managing Differently, getting 100% from 100% of your people 100% of the time. And this one is still available on all the major book sites. And
Okay.
of course, you can also order them directly from me.
Okay.
Um, and so the new book will be out in June in hardback.
Okay.
I'm right now inviting people. So if any of your listeners are listening, I'm inviting people to be part of my book launch team. And these are people who understand what I just shared with you today, John, and are
Okay.
willing to help me promote that by promoting the book.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I would invite your audience to do.
Okay. Okay. Great. That's awesome. And I know I have a lot of publishers and distributors, marketers, book marketers in my network. And the good thing about this program and this platform is that you know for those who couldn't watch the live program, they can always watch the replay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you are currently watching the replay or listening to the replay via podcast, I want you to please contact Dr. Rogers. He's looking for distributors for his new book, and his website is thediversitycoach.com. For those of you watching via Facebook and YouTube, his website is currently being displayed on the screen. And those of you on podcast, it's thediversitycoach.com. That's ThediversityCoach.com. Thediversitycoach.com. And you can also find him. I know he's active on LinkedIn. Dr. Rogers, could you please share with us what social media platforms you are
I
uh,
am
active
on I am on LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn site is let me see what did we call that? We call it Coach and Strategist James O. Rogers, PhD, FIMC, and I'm on Facebook. And again, the my title there is James Rogers on Facebook, and I'm also on Twitter. And my Twitter handle is at J Diversity, at J Diversity on Twitter. So you can contact me or connect with me on any of those platforms, as well as on my main website.
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know a lot of people would see it and they would reach out to you. So please, everybody, like and share this broadcast until it gets to that person who needs to hear this message. So we want to thank you all. So, Dr. Rogers, I want you to please share with us before we go some words of encouragement for that employee who's fed up, who has not discovered his or her purpose in life. And he or she knows that he or she needs to discover that purpose because they wake up every day frustrated and they know it's about time for them to discover who they are. Please share, just give for a minute. Just give them some words of encouragement.
So, what I would encourage you to do is to listen. One of the things that I teach as part of my finding truth concept is that there are two ways for us to discover truth. One is by seeking it through scripture and then confirming it with our life experience. The other one is discovering it through our life experiences and then confirming it through scripture. So if you will pay attention to what's been happening in your life and just look back over it and say, when were the times that I was at my best and it didn't feel like work? It was natural. But for some reason, everybody around me was saying, wow, good job, good job, good job. What was I doing then? And when you figure out those things that come naturally to you, that you're naturally good at, then you have a clue about what you were built to do. And you should follow it. You should find a way to wind up doing that thing. So we're all called, led, equipped, and blessed to do something special in the world. Once you get that in your head, it will become evident to you that your job is to find out what that is. I hope you all be blessed.
Thank you so much. That was powerful. That was powerful. And I just want to add to what you just said now. Nobody's saying you should get rid of your job like right away. So if you're listening to us, have an exit strategy. Have an exit strategy. Be sure that the time is right. Be sure that you have a backup plan before you make that move. Because when you make that move without having the ability to pay your bills, it becomes a frustrating um, period for you at that point. So have an exit strategy. Have it at the back of your mind that your job is meant to help you refine your gift. When you figure out what you are passionate or what you are called to do, then you can take that bold step one day at a time, one day at a time, because you would at some point need the income from your job to finance your calling, right? They say your work, your job is what you are paid to do, but your work, which is your calling, is what you were born to do. So thank you so much, Dr. Rogers, and thank you all for listening. Yeah, let's see. Somebody just left a comment for you. Let's see. Okay. Symbol, she said, we are all called, equipped for something in the world. Yes, that's correct. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to like and share this broadcast because somebody else needs to hear this. There's somebody on your contact list that needs to hear this message. Yes, we are all called, equipped for something in the world. And let's see from let's take one last one. This is from who? Tony Larson. Hello, Tony. Yeah, Tony said powerful words. Thank you, Dr. James. Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Thank you so much. I know you have blessed some lives and some people because we have this currently being streamed on multiple platforms right now. And we know the comments would continuously come in. And thank you so much for your time today. Please, everybody, go and purchase his book. Go and purchase his book. This is a man with so much wisdom, and he has put everything that he has learned over time into these books. This is what you need to go get right now. So go right now, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. You can go to his website and purchase his book. His website is thediversitycoach.com. So thank you. And you have a coaching program, sir, right?
I do. I have an
Yeah, sure.
executive coaching program, right?
Great, 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 great. So please feel free. His website is on the screen. It's also, um, you can also find that, you know, find him on LinkedIn, Twitter, and those social media handles that he mentioned previously. So thank you, everybody, and stay blessed. Remember that you are a masterpiece because you are a piece of the master, and the master is God, the creator. So take care, everybody. Stay blessed.